Welcome to On Second Thought. I'm John Price, and I'm here with our pastor, Jay Hackett, where every week we take a deeper dive into life at Peachtree Corners Baptist Church. Whether we're talking about the latest sermon, upcoming events, or just whatever's on Jay's mind, this is your insider look at our church, our staff, and what makes PCBC your church on the corner. So join our conversation as we help you find community, purpose, and growth. Let's get into it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
How did you spend your Memorial Day?
With my family. And when I say my family, it was just me and the girls. We left the house once to go to Chipotle because nothing says Memorial Day like Chipotle. And we had a good time together, and we sat around and just watched movies and spent
Nice.
the day together, and it was very relaxed. It was great.
Good.
What'd you guys do?
We had a wonderful day of just kind of sleeping in, watching TV, having a late breakfast in bed, and then just kind of doing our own thing as far as, what would be the perfect day for you, John? What would be the perfect day for you, April? So she went to a coffee shop and wrote, and
So the perfect day for you in April is not to be together. Is that what I'm picking up here? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think, what makes the heart grow fonder?
Absence.
Absence.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And we're back. So, no, I went to my garage, the shop, and just had a great day out there. Had a checklist of things that I wanted to accomplish, which with ADD, you might start on that first one, and then it just goes everywhere. So, but I got a few things done and had a wonderful time, and so it was great to have that extra day.
Yeah.
And I did think about, and I'm kind of expanding on just this idea of Sabbath and rest, and that the old school, you can't mow the lawn. You can't do anything that resembles work. But, I just being out there and working in the shop. I mean, our neighborhood had a big Memorial Day. Everybody go at the pool and, I don't know, in my mind, get drunk and be stupid.
Yeah,
And I was like, fun for me is just kind of sitting in my shop and working. Yeah. So I did that. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Great time. So.
Well, a lot of times it's just getting alone with God,
Mm-hmm.
and just hanging out. Doesn't necessarily have to be in His Word.
Yeah.
It can just be a season of going, hey, man, I'm just thankful for you. I'm praising you in the moments and, enjoying the gifts and the talents that you've given me. And, just feel refreshed by being able to do that.
Yeah. And a lot of times I'll be out there and I'll be listening to a book or something on my headphones. Yesterday it was just, well, it wasn't always silence with, different saws and stuff going off, but I wasn't listening to anything. And so there were those moments of worship and prayer and just kind of talking to God and being mindful of, man, how awesome is this? Just to kind of have the space to just kind of enjoy. And so I certainly hope that for all of our folks that they had that as well. And this last Sunday, we took time to kind of celebrate that extra day and the beginning, the kickoff to summer with a little celebration.
Yeah, we had fun with that. It's something we've done in the past, but we were like, hey, let's kick off summer with an ice cream truck. And it'd probably been 7-8 years since we've given away, sunglasses or anything, and kind of promoted that up for the summer. But it was fun. We knew that Memorial Day weekend was going to be a down weekend, as people are finally out of school. And as we know, people travel here and they take off and go have fun. But we still had well over 300 people that were here with us Sunday and just in worship itself. But then celebrated outside with the ice cream truck. And it was just fun to watch families grab an ice cream, sit around and have a conversation. And, just that whole idea of everything our church is built off of is community.
Yeah.
And being able to just kind of help assist that and kind of crossing over, because sometimes you don't get to mesh with people that are not in your life group, or or at a different age or stage of life. And so it was just neat to watch families get to do that on Sunday, and it was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
limited myself to one ice cream this year.
Yeah. Well, I think I told my life group, I said, you guys help me with time. We gotta get done. I think I said nine, no, what is it? 11:40.
Yes.
I said, y'all let me know when it's 11:40 or 11:35, something like that. So I can go up and help pass out sunglasses. And we had a, we had a really big group. I mean,
Hmm.
we had all the seats filled. We had several, I think April said we had 6 visitors, which for
Wow.
our group
That's huge.
is big. I think we had
For any
like,
group,
yeah,
that's big.
18 or
Yeah.
19 people. And so we had a great discussion. We had to cut it off early, so we'll continue on next week with what we were doing. But yeah, I got up there and had several just great conversations with folks. I got in line early to get my like sour blast kind of thing, and then the crowd started coming, so I was like, one's good.
Yeah.
But we got done, and when we went and sat in the foyer with y'all after the truck was gone and everybody had wandered, it was like 1 o'clock.
Hmm.
1 o'clock, and I was like, man, that was fun, just standing around talking to people. We just don't get that enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And anytime you can create that, it's
Yeah.
always a good thing. Yeah. I didn't get out there until after noon. I
Hmm.
was in a membership meeting, and
Right,
and that
right.
went fantastic. So
Yeah.
excited that she's going to be joining us, and really excited about our church and just how she's been loved on and connected from the very beginning. Solid believer in Christ.
Yeah.
And so very excited to have Miss Becky joining us
Yeah.
here at Peachtree Corners, and all the life group leaders that are out there. This is your challenge, is to dote her with gifts and love on her and try to get her in your class.
Yeah.
Because she said she wanted to be checking out,
Good.
several life groups,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is what they're set up to do, right?
Right, right.
And she recognized, she's like, man, ever since I walked in the door the first time, I've been loved on by this place. I've never sat alone. Someone's always saying, hey, come sit with me, come sit with me. And she goes,
Awesome.
and then inevitably it always says, come to my life group. Come to my
Yeah.
life group. Come to my life group.
That's great to hear.
And so I'm really looking forward to that. And so we wrapped that up, and connected with my daughter, and we went out, and I got the strawberry shortcake. So Sunday we wrapped up, right, our series on lasting legacy,
Yes.
which was awesome. I really thought it was just a lot of fun to think about. What are other people seeing in me?
Yeah.
And am I leaving the legacy that I really want? And I know we talked about, with graduations and, just going to different quarters of our life. The thought is just going, okay, well, what am I being known for? What'll be said of me really after I'm gone?
Right.
But I determined today, right, what that eulogy is being said. And so, Sunday we wrapped it up from Psalm 71, looking at an older man writing, but just those keys of understanding that, the older we get, that this was the thing as I was studying it, and even as I was in the middle of preaching it, that I kept going, the older we get, the closer to Jesus we ought to be. I mean, it's just that natural thing of going, oh man, I need more of him. I need more of him. We talk about Paul all the time, and he would start by saying, I am one of the apostles, and, went from thinking he was something to by the end of his life, he said, I'm the chief sinner.
Right. Yeah.
I am so far away from God. And so the closer we get to God doesn't make us better.
Mhm.
All of a sudden it just shows us, he reveals more of our sinfulness, so many times. And it's not to shame us.
Right.
It's to show us you need me. You need me more
Right.
today than you've ever needed me before in
Right.
your life,
Well, and I can't remember if this was Augustine, one of the early church fathers, that, when they were young, their prayer was, God, let me save the world. And then it shifted to, God, let me save my country. God, let me, save my, and then, in his older age, God, help me not to screw too many people up.
Absolutely.
And our life group right now is going through Matthew. We were in Matthew 5, starting out with the Sermon on the Mount this last Sunday. And that first thing, blessed are the poor in spirit, was it's not talking about monetary poverty. It's talking about a recognition that, man, on my own, I got nothing. I bring nothing to the table, God. If I'm going to make it, it has to be through you, with you. And so that, and they will receive the kingdom. I mean, and so that is your entrance into the kingdom, which was so countercultural then, and does not seem natural to us in church world.
Yeah.
Because we normally are like, well, I've got my stuff together, so now I'm good enough to be in the kingdom.
Yeah.
It's, God, I got nothing.
Yeah.
I got nothing, and I need you. And God opens the door. Okay, you're in. Come on, follow me.
I was listening to Alistair Begg on one of his reels that comes through, and this guy, I don't know if he's as brilliant as I think he is,
his accent.
or if it's his accent.
Right,
yes, it may be the accent.
No, I love listening to him.
But he was talking about the old thought of, what do you say when you get to heaven? If you're standing there and someone's there to let you in,
right,
quote unquote, which is our thinking, oh yeah, somebody will be there to let you in. And he said, if you answer in anything but the third person, you're wrong. Because I. And he said, no, it's because he. He is the one that paid the price. He is the one that provided a way. I'm here because he said I could come.
Yeah.
Kind of and it's just a good picture of that dependence.
Right.
And, and that's kind of where Psalm 71 was. The thing that just jumped out at me, and we even hit it some Sunday, was just, let me never be put to shame. And, as I read that over and over and over, I was just like, man, what a prayer, and if we as followers of Jesus would actually have that as a prayer, God, don't let me ever be put to shame. Don't ever let me do anything that would hurt your name, your cause, who you are. I want to live a life that would draw people to you, not detour them from you. Because a lot of times people see quote unquote Christians and they're like, yeah, I don't want that.
Right.
Or
right.
I've been to a church before and that's why I don't want to go back to a church, is because I've met some of those people. And at some point you start just thinking you're that good. And it's like, no, you're not. Nobody is that good. Jesus is that good. And so, stay close to the shepherd. You're my refuge. You're my hiding place. And if I keep my life in you and I stay close to you, I won't ever be put to shame. And that, I think, is really the goal of any of us as believers, is just to go, God, I want to stay that close to you, stay receptive to your word, to your truth, to what you're saying to me, not get hard-hearted. Not to get to a point where I've got to have my way or I've got to do, and it's just, God, keep me moldable, so that my life will represent you.
And I think there's also that, accompanying sense of transparency with the world, because yes, there is the, God, help me not to do anything that would, bring shame to the gospel, to the kingdom, that might turn people away. But there's also that, we're going to fail, we're going to fall, and that transparency in it, where if somebody from the outside is like, well, they just have it all together, they don't struggle like I do, they don't have doubts like I do, they don't, that was in talking with some different people here before they crossed that line and made a decision to follow Christ. That was a big challenge and hang up, is that I still have questions, I still have doubts, and to be able to say, well, that's called the human experience.
Called normal.
That's called Tuesday,
exactly.
And so I think it's a both and. It's that tension between I want to follow Christ because he's the only answer and he's the only way, and in my following him, I stumble and struggle, and that's why I need to follow Christ. But that transparency is, I think it gives freedom and a safe place for people to be honest with their own lives and their own need in talking with us about how do I get that? How do I do that?
Absolutely. And I think that's, to me, that's the confirmation, right? It's that Holy Spirit conviction that comes over and goes, man, I blew that one. let me acknowledge that. I confess it,
Yeah.
definitely before God. But if there is a need, or you have your small group, you have some people around that you're like, hey, man, guys, I blew it this week,
Yeah.
and I need to confess that to you guys as well, because I need to be healed, and I need accountability.
Yeah.
Hold me on this.
Right.
And, Randy Pope and I have been friends for years. And Randy says, my accountability group, he goes, I have guys that I love to have around me. And he goes, but I think the number one thing they live for is to hear how I failed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he goes, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just all of a sudden it's like, oh man, you're human.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he said, and it stays in that group, which is where it should stay.
Yeah.
But there's just something about going, okay, somebody that we take and put on a pedestal, right?
Absolutely.
And then now all of a sudden we go, oh, you're human too,
Right.
And I always tell people, please don't put me on a pedestal,
Yeah.
because I'm going to let you down. I am going to disappoint you. I'm going to say something, do something that's going to, completely blow your thoughts of me as a pastor.
Yeah.
And don't do that. I'm the same. I've simply got a call on my life to continue to speak God's truth, to speak his word, to do life with others. But hey, I fall. And when I do, I don't need condemnation, because there is no condemnation in Christ. I need a hand. Hey, get up. This ain't you. This is not your identity. This is not who God's called you to be. Let's go.
Yeah.
And a true desire to go, okay, yeah, that's not me. I don't know what I was listening to. I don't know why I started believing that. I don't know what led me down that path, but I need to find my refuge back in you.
Right.
So it's just real.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the church needs to be.
I
real.
think there is nothing more attractive on our side of the gospel in evangelism than authenticity, vulnerability, and sharing where we blow it. That people are drawn to that. Now, on Christ's side of the gospel, it is the hope that we have in him, the identity that we find in him. And yeah, I love as I listen to more of like Jamie Winship stuff, that foundational thing of identity is where sin is comes from forgetting who we are. And just that recognition of repentance is, God, these are the lies that I've believed.
Correct.
And because of that, the way that I've acted, the way that I've shown up. And so help me to see me how you see me, and then live in that identity. And to me, that is, it makes sense, because just the way that we think is according to who I am, according to who my people are. How do I respond to this? How do I act?
Correct.
So I think that's huge.
Yeah. Randy always says, KCP, what do I know? What do you say about me?
Right.
All right, let me consider that. Okay, well, if these things are true, which we know they are,
right,
what does that do for my life? And so now, how do I present myself to you to live that out?
Yeah.
Right. Take my eyes, take my thoughts, take my mouth, take my hands, take every part of my body, because that's who you say I am. That's who I want to be. And the moment that we get off of that, we come right back to it. God, I took my mouth back from you, and I became something I'm not. Let me put that back on the altar and give me this, giving it back to you so I can walk with you, that I can walk in and say, hey, the kingdom of God is here.
Yeah.
And so here we go.
Yeah. U2 has a song, Yahweh, which all of their albums have a worship song on it. And it Yahweh has those lyrics, take my mouth, take my heart, it's, and I sometimes I worship more to their worship songs than I do to just the stuff that's more mainstream, quote, worship.
Yeah.
One, because they started out when I was in high school, and they're kind of near and dear to my heart. And Bono's a little preachy old lady, but I love his boldness in fighting for justice and just speaking the gospel and that kind of thing. But no, that idea of, here's what I have. It ain't much, but I know you can do some great stuff with it.
That's right.
That idea of redeeming.
That's 100%.
Yeah. So this weekend, if I'm not jumping ahead too far,
No.
I mean, do we need to talk about anything this week? There's no chair updates. We did
No
get rid
chair
of the
update. I was gonna
all the
say,
red chairs.
are they gone?
Yeah, all the ones that were in the fellowship hall
Nice.
gone. I think we have about 65 left upstairs. D building. There's another church that wants them, so we're going to get rid of those.
Awesome.
And I think those blue ones we're going to get rid of as well. We're going to have
there's
so
your
much
chair
space for
update.
life
Lots
groups.
of space. Yeah.
Chair update. Yeah.
Chair, for storage.
No, for life groups.
Oh. Okay.
Yes, making
Yeah.
new life groups. I love it.
No, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And
Yeah.
then this Sunday,
Yeah.
we start our summer series, and so very excited about that. We've talked about legacy, right? And we want to leave that legacy that would be honoring to God. And I think a lot of us go, "That's the legacy I want to have." Okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, what we're going to do through the summer is we are going to kick off through Galatians 5 and talking about the fruit of the Spirit in a series that we're going to call Cultivating Character.
Mm.
And so, what we want to do is legacy really comes from having character, right? Having
Right.
that integrity, that driven, life giving thing that comes from Christ and,
Right,
and a
yeah.
relationship in Him that shows itself very clearly in those 9 things that are listed out as the one fruit of the Spirit. And
Right.
so you can't go, "Hey, I've got two of the 9.
Yeah, it's not a
I'm
grocery
good."
list.
Yeah, it's not a grocery list of going, "Okay, I'm 3 for 9. That's a pretty good average. I'm in the Hall of Fame,"
Right.
kind of a thing. God says, no. Every one of these things should be evident in your life,
Yeah.
and should be changing in your life to becoming more and more like me. And so through this series, I'm going to kick it off this Sunday, really kind of talking about the conflict that's there a little bit between the spirit and the flesh, and looking at that in Galatians chapter 5. I was supposed to cover love, and so maybe love will be thrown in somewhere, because we'd broken down the 9 things that are happening this summer. But it'll
You might include the greatest of
I
these.
might include the greatest of these.
Okay.
We may not get to the greatest of these. Yeah. I may have to come back and throw love in later on and
Right.
do something the 1st of August. But I just think that we've got to address spirit and flesh in this concept of really what's in control of my life.
Right.
And it's so evident in that. And if we don't, I don't know that any of these characteristics really play out the way that they should. So, spent a lot of time just these last few days just kind of praying over that, thinking through that, going, all right, Lord, what do we do? And we got to talk about this conflict that's there, and then the characteristics that are coming out of that. So we'll use Galatians 5 as a launching pad each week. And then each one of those fruit will be looked at. I know it's one fruit, but each characteristic of that fruit will be looked at throughout the summer. And yourself and Logan and Wallace and
I'm doing goodness and joy.
You're doing goodness and joy.
Yeah.
Look at you. And I think Wallace has peace, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe.
Look, I'm good to know the
you
ones
know
that I'm
goodness
supposed to be preaching on.
Joy.
Yeah.
But no, I just love the fact that we've got guys on staff who are so passionate about Christ, who love this church. And we get to hear from our people, right? That's the thing that I think our people connect with so well, is they're like, "Hey, I know that guy. I love that guy. He loves Jesus. He loves me. What's God's truth saying to me today?"
Yeah.
And so just having that is a huge blessing for me as a pastor. Continue to build that and, to use your gifts. And so, I know that none of you, well, maybe Logan, but none of you are going, I really want to be a senior pastor. I want to do this 50 times a year, and this is what I'm, longing for, kind of a thing.
I've told many a pastor, you never have to worry about me gunning for your job. No thanks. No thanks. I like to be able to joke around, be myself. And when people are like, you're a pastor? I'm like, associate pastor.
Associate pastor.
There's a little more wiggle room, a little more freedom to.
Well, I love it because you tend to say what I'm thinking, and it saves me the humiliation.
I don't have to have quite the decorum.
Yeah, exactly. And I can just sit there and laugh. And no, but just excited to walk through the summer and really cultivate that character in our life. And one of the reasons we were kind of going through this was that if we miss a week or two, you're not lost really with the series itself and the things that are going on, but we're hoping that you're watching online or you're going back and catching up and kind of going, okay, look, if I want to leave a legacy, the fruit has to be there in my life. And so how am I doing? And almost kind of look at it and go, all right, Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. How am I doing in that?
Right.
I mean, hey, we love to have a checklist, right? Oh, let me look at this. No, really, how am I doing at loving people? Do I love people that look like me? Do I love people that act like me? Or do I love people who are opposite of me? And, some of these things are very convicting as you walk through, of looking at this stuff and kind of going, wow, I really don't have the love of Christ. I really don't have the joy of Christ. I really don't have that gentleness and that peace and, the patience,
Right.
the skinny jeans.
Right.
I don't have these things. They're not the first thing that come to mind, and we don't think about them in our best self. You think about them in our worst self, because that's when, it's like what you get squeezed. It's what comes out that matters,
Right.
and so if you think through that, you kind of going, okay, God, I want more of this. I want joy in my life. And where do I find joy? Jesus, right? Where do I find that peace? God, I got to have you as my refuge. I'm going to continue to run to you and say, I hope you're not ignorant to pray for patience, right? Everybody always says, there's only one way to get patience. So nobody's necessarily praying for that, but we're hopefully developing that, somewhere along the line. But really excited about this summer and kind of hanging out in Galatians 5, looking at some other passages that really drive home each one of these aspects, and to really look at our own lives and kind of go, okay, do I have fruit? That was our word this year, is fruit. And
Right.
so how is that being developed in my life?
Yeah.
And I think the more we focus on that and thinking through those things, then ultimately we're leaving the legacy. Ultimately we're kind of going through and going, okay, all right, these things are evident in my life, and I am a joy to be around.
Right.
People do see a difference in me because I don't respond like other people respond. I don't react. I'm ready to handle some of these things. I know God's faithfulness. I know his goodness, and don't know how he's going to work in this yet, but I know he will. And so I'm just trusting him through the process. And that's what makes a believer, a follower of Christ, attractive to someone who's on the outside looking in.
Right.
Are you perfect? No. Do you have it all together? No. Do you mess up? Yes. But there's still something that you go, man, you're different. You're different. You're not like the people I typically see or claim to be this. It really is there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so we started off this journey of looking at fruit for this year. Now this is kind of second gear. This is, and really when people hear we're going to be talking about fruit, they think fruit of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but we have basically a whole calendar year lined up of what is fruit, because it's more than just the fruit of the Spirit.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I am excited about this series. I'm excited about how far we're going to press into this idea of fruit. So to me, that's exciting. This is just step 2 in looking at all that it means to bear fruit. What does fruit look like? So yeah, I'm excited about the series. I'm excited about the summer. We get to switch things up a bit, which certainly appeals to the ADD in me. We're certainly, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the summer, and we're also planning for the fall. But there are times where we get to kind of do some back burner things or rest a little bit.
Correct.
So
that'll be fun. I know we've got a lot of things going on with the kids, the students, and always looking for
VBS right around the corner.
VBS right around the corner. For any of the guys, we are definitely looking for some men that could be the door holders. Sometimes just that having that guy at the door is a deterrent.
This is not a high bar, guys.
Yeah,
this
no.
Hold the door.
Can you open the door and look mean? That's in a loving way. We love the children, the other guys that are there, but just, looking for some ways to do that. I think one of the things that I'm kind of intrigued by is this Zoom Bible study.
Yeah.
That April is
And
and
Joshua
Joshua
Gordon are
Gordon
going to
going to
be
be
leading.
doing. And
Yeah.
tell me just a little bit about that and kind of what that layout is.
Right. So that's going to start the first week in June.
So not this Thursday, the
Yes.
following
The
Thursday.
following Thursday nights.
Okay.
And so it'll be, if you're in town, out of town, I'm not quite sure if it starts at 6:37, something like that. It's online. You can register through the website, through the church app. And they're going to be talking about this idea of identity in Christ, our identity as God has created us individually. And so I'm excited about the discussion, but really as we pour into and lean into more and more this idea of identity, and as we're looking at kind of writing the follow-up classes to the Discover class,
Yep.
we've, said, let's just build this from the ground up. And identity is one of the core 3 concepts that we're going to be pouring into that second class, that develop class, and understanding who we are, how God's created us, and the importance of identity. So I think this will be a great series. We've heard several people have excited about it, signed up.
Mm-hmm.
Susan told April that she signed up because it's on a Thursday night, so she didn't have responsibilities there. But let me encourage you to be a part of that discussion as well. You may take away some stuff that it's not just about learning head knowledge, because identity is that filter that we base our decisions on, our actions, our thought life is all about and around identity. So we got to lock that in. So that's going to be a great thing this summer. I guess 8 weeks.
Is that 8 weeks?
Yeah, it goes. It's June and July.
All of June, all of July.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
I love it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I love the concept. I love the topic.
Yeah.
And I think it's really going to be helpful if our folks can get their minds wrapped around that and truly begin to understand who they are in Christ and how God has gifted them and says, look, this is who you are. And it changes your perspective when you understand that. It's like, wow, okay, I am this. I don't have to live in a place of fear or doubt or questioning, everything that's there. This is true of me. But also love the concept of just checking something out different during the summer. How does a Zoom, does it work? Does it work for our people? Or are they kind of going, yeah, I'd love to, be a part of that. And
I think hopefully we're distanced enough from COVID
that it's not going to be
have that Zoom fatigue. Yeah,
exactly.
Which, I mean, it's a great technology to have access to for that very reason. Our people travel during the summer. Yeah. I mean, this weekend, a long weekend, people were gone. And so this affords them that connection point, the discussion, and it's going to be good.
Yeah. Well, I have noticed that in talking to my kids, I was talking to Amy about it the other day, and while our schedule does change during the summer, I'm not near as excited about summer as my kids are, because I don't get different. 2.5 months off,
right? Yeah.
To be bored. I mean, here we are.
Well, we do. To be fair, we only work on Sundays and Wednesdays.
Well, that's true, half day,
right?
And so, but you throw the half in from Wednesday, half in from Sunday. That's a full day, and it's good. Right. It's good to be able to do that. But
I was a young youth pastor, and one of the ushers caught me on a Sunday morning. I was rushing from A to B, and he was like, "Hey, I got this job. If you want to mow my lawn and do this," and I was like, and that was his idea. I just work Sunday and Wednesday. Yeah. I was like, dude, I have the police calling my parents at 3 a.m. because my car is outside the church. They're thinking it was stolen and left there. I'm inside working, back in those days where clip art was you photocopied and cut it out to make the youth newsletter.
Yes.
And
do you miss those days?
I do not.
I don't either.
Not the clip art or the youth.
Yeah. It came in a book.
Yeah.
Do you remember the book?
Youth specialties.
We had so many books from youth specialties that you could flip through and find which clip art you wanted to use.
That was one of the highlights of youth specialty conferences. Go and load up on books.
That's crazy.
Skits, icebreakers, Bible studies.
Icebreakers, games.
Yeah.
wow, the invention of the internet really changed
Yeah.
everything for us.
Chat GPT even more
Chat
so.
GPT even more so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Goodness.
So,
All
no,
right.
good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Anything else?
No, I think we've got maybe 6-8 minutes of content there that
In the
Todd can
almost
figure out.
40 minutes
We'll see.
of drivel.
Yeah.
So what are some action steps that we'll leave our folks with?
We leave our folks with this idea of, I was reading this the other day. Let me just throw this out there. It said, a lot of us get in this season of waiting. We're trying to wait to figure out what the next thing is for us and what we should do. And the thought was this: what does a waiter do? A waiter serves. And so in the midst of our waiting, we should be serving.
Yeah.
And so, I would just say, look for your opportunities this summer to serve. Maybe it's an area that you've not normally served in, and you go, hey, I'm going to check out VBS, or I'm going to give a week of my life and go to camp. I'm going to, step out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to serve. I want to use what God has given me to impact somebody else. We got a serve day coming up with our missions team on the 21st of June. And maybe it's just, let's get my family together and, go serve at Fully Furnished or go serve at Neighborhood Co-op. Just finding those places to go, hey, God, what are you doing? And how can I be a part of it? And so I think, serving is always the right answer, is to go, hey, let me just step in and help. I would also tell you that, hey, in town, in church, I know that's something we say all the time around here, and you're sick of hearing it, but literally, if you are in town, make it a priority to be in church because we need each other. And it's just so much fun to connect with one another and be a part of that. If you're out of town, online, watch it and connect with it. There's something about, when I'm out of town, I enjoy being able to connect with our church family and being able to see that and just experience that together. So I think that's a huge takeaway. Is just continue to be connected, be a part of what God's doing here on the corner, because it's some great stuff, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, you had said something that reminded me of this is a way back, deep cut, Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. There was in one scene, just graffiti on the wall as one of the actors was walking across, said, life is what happens when you're making plans. And so I would just encourage our folks that as you go through your summer, whether it is traveling, whether it is sitting around waiting, whatever it might be, this is life and it's a gift. And we would encourage you to use it to the fullest. One of the best ways to use life to the fullest is one in worship and gratitude for what we've been given and absolutely in service. And there are plenty of opportunities for service. Some that are formal opportunities through the church, whether it be VBS, youth camp, some just opportunities in your own neighborhood when a neighbor comes up and you get to have a conversation or you get to pour into a family member or a coworker. Just take advantage of those opportunities that life is going on around us right now, and we get to represent Him. Amen. This is about His kingdom, and we get to be His, not just children, but His ambassadors. So thank you for being with us during this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it, got some stuff out of it. That's all on God. None of it is on us, because as soon as the camera goes off, we'll be like, what did we just say? What happened? Where are we?
We talked about Jesus, Bono, and Spike Lee.
That's right.
That's the best.
That you can't get more wide-ranged
no, you
than
cannot.
that. Yeah. And that was during the filming.
That was
so.
Yeah.
But y'all have
it's
a great,
life-changing, right?
a great rest of your day, and God bless. Well, that's it for this episode of On Second Thought. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. If you have a question or thought, drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to find out more about your church on the corner, check us out at pcbchurch.org. We'll be back next week with more. So until then, have a great week and God bless.